I don't feel like as a Black person, I have to declare anything. I think if I just enter the space, and I enter the space in a very authentic or embodied way, that it's gonna create effect. Live Evil. You know, you start having these titles that are flirting in this space of a kind of ambiguity, a particular kind of emotional ambiguity, I think. And so I've just always been attracted to that. I don't know how to explain it. A couple of people ask me, what does it mean? It's a title I've wanted to use for 30 years on some work, a movie, a book, or something, you know what I mean? People sometimes ask me, what are you trying to say? And I'll say, I'm not trying to say anything. I'm saying something now, I'm talking. But you know what I mean? We think saying something is the only way to make meaning. And I guess that's all I'm trying to get at. There's a way in which you can put an artifact in a space and it can do things to that space. It can catalyze that space. It can make people feel a certain way. It can repel people or attract people. But none of that is saying anything. What does it mean? Like if you don't get the meaning of it, it's like invalid or something. In terms of Black aesthetics or Afro-American expressivity, you know, I like to say pretty much everybody in the world knows there's something called a Black artist. Even though for most people, that's a musician. Typically, it's a musician. Sometimes it's, it can be a dancer or an entertainer or something like that, but typically it's around music. And this Black artist is expressive. And, you know, and typically that means big. Like you're doing big gestures, whether it's a basketball player, Michael Jordan, who's doing, you know what I mean, 360 degree and he's dunking the ball, or if it's Josephine Baker, you know what I mean? It's just a lot of stuff going on, which is cool and that's real. But I've always been attracted to this other polarity of Black or Afro-American expressivity, which is like, if that's about excess or surplus expressivity, doing a lot, then the flip side of that is, you know, restraint and holding back. Darkness is, visually speaking, the equivalent of silence, right? It's like what happens when a Black person enters a space, ostensibly, the Black body enters the white space. What happens in that moment when they don't speak? And it creates a kind of resonance. I'm a very political person, but in my work, I don't necessarily I don't do I like to say, I don't do uplift. I don't do activism in my work. I think activism and uplift are critical for human beings to grow and evolve and all that, but it's just not what I do. And part of, I guess, aging or being of a certain age is you come to not so much not having insecurity, but you come to accept your strengths and your limitations. And I think I've accepted that what I do is not activism at its best, it's more alchemical or something. It's like, you know what I mean? I'm not a person who's gonna throw a grenade on anybody and take them out. I'm a person who's gonna poison somebody. It's gonna be a slow, creepy death, you know, that's gonna until they're not gonna quite know what's going wrong with them. So I think of my work like that, is this very, in its restraint, insinuates itself, as opposed to coming in with a, you know, with a bullhorn or something and said, this is what it should be. A lot of what I'm interested in is not dictating the effect that it creates, but trying to be as resonantly embodied as I can be.